The story starts with a simple idea: 3 rules to follow. At a new academy, an instructor welcomes his students to their first lesson. He tells them this is something they truly need to learn. Rule 1 is to protect the innocent, and there is no backing out. Rule 2 is about honor and integrity, and he points this out while looking at a student named Novice. Rule 3 is to serve with humility, basically a hero's checklist. Novice just smirks, looking way too cool with his tiny bat companion beside him. With a dramatic pause, the instructor gets ready for the big reveal. He pulls a sheet off the teaching aid, and it turns out to be a tied-up victim because the real lesson is how to drink blood properly. The other students look thrilled, wearing creepy grins. Novice, meanwhile, looks totally confused by all of this. Somehow, he has ended up at an actual vampire school. The story jumps back 6 months. A group of people run through a forest, chased by bandits, and things look hopeless. But a lone adventurer steps in to face the attackers. It is Novice, back in his hero days, standing against a whole group of enemies. His small flying companion glows and casts a speed-boosting spell on him, and Novice shoots forward like lightning. The bandit leader is stunned by how strong his opponent is. This white-haired fighter moves like a storm, cutting through the bandits with ease. He rushes past the leader and lands one clean hit, a blade straight through the chest, which looks pretty final. Impressed, the leader admits he has finally met someone with real courage. He even tells Novice to just kill him and take the reward. But Novice explains the bounty was actually for releasing monsters near merchants, not for a normal fight. Then comes the twist. This bandit leader is Novice Stormrider, and his own remaining men are shocked to hear it. Novice just mocks him for not finishing the fight earlier. As he is dragged away, the leader tries to act innocent, even complaining about the mess Novice made. He questions why Novice kills monsters, but spares him. He keeps threatening that Novice will regret this mercy. Novice looks completely unbothered by the whole thing. A teammate pats his shoulder, saying they followed their code. No humans died today. Another friend, Park, tells him to ignore the bandits' empty threats. Novice seems to agree, and his determination grows stronger. Their group heads toward Rosswood Village, parading Novice's captured group through the streets. The townspeople cheer for him, since no one has died since Novice joined the team. Every monster he defeats feels like a small sign of hope for everyone. Park checks in on him, but Novice is quietly having doubts, wondering if what they are doing is really right. His friend tries to comfort him, saying their order would be proud of how they handled the bandits. Novice still looks unsure. The story flashes back to a younger, bloodied Novice thanking a mysterious stranger who saved him. The boy has no money to repay him and looks completely helpless. His rescuer simply tells him to become an adventurer he can be proud of. Classic hero origin material. Then comes a short history lesson about the guild, monsters, and a powerful king. Over time, monsters grew stronger and wanted posters piled up everywhere. Whole towns began burning as things spiraled out of control. So the king gave gifted adventurers a special power called the System, basically turning life into a game. Novice himself is chosen, standing before the king with his tiny familiar. He explains his code: protect the innocent, honor, and humility. Wait, those sound exactly like the vampire rules from earlier. As one of the strongest, he is picked to fight for humanity, starting from a humble level 1 with his little top hat wearing companion. His goal becomes simple: get stronger to make the order proud. He aims for level 40 and is already at level 35 with strong stats. Back in the present, Park tries to cheer him up by bringing up his local nickname. The team returns to the Duskwatch Guild Hall, and Park spots his friend coming back from the field. But Novice walks straight past everyone toward the quest board because the grind never really stops. He grabs a flyer off the wall, already thinking about the next job. His friend Sly asks if he ever takes a break. Novice shows him the quest, a missing person case nobody wants to touch. Sly points out the reward is terrible for a mission inside a monster den. He argues it has already been a week, so the chances of finding the person alive are basically 0. But Novice insists that even a small chance is worth trying for. Sly sighs, wishing Novice could just be a normal, greedy adventurer for once. Novice replies that the real reward is within himself. What a dork. Another teammate tells Sly he should know by now. There is no stopping Novice once he goes into hero mode. Scarface then reveals he is retiring and wants his final quest to be a rescue mission. Sly is caught off guard by the announcement. With a baby on the way, Scarface is done adventuring, so Novice offers to take the mission alone. Sly immediately shuts that down, reminding him of the 3-person party rule. He is coming along too. After all, someone has to protect the protector. Novice looks genuinely touched by the nickname. Scarface confirms that is what people call him now, after saving them so many times. Park tries to volunteer as well, but Sly tells him to stay behind and heal his injury. Sly reminds him that he follows the same rules as Novice, so someone still needs to guard the guild. With that settled, the three of them head out as evening falls. They arrive at a quiet farm on the edge of town, and Novice asks the client why his brother went into the Chlorof caves. The man explains his brother had gone chasing runaway cattle. It seemed like a normal chore until an hour passed and he never returned. Sly immediately asks if anyone went looking for him. The brother admits he is the only one left to run the farm, and going after him alone would likely get him killed too. All he can do now is hope his brother is still alive. If not, he just wants to bury him properly. Sly turns to Novice, putting the final decision on him, pointing out the boy has been missing a week, so the odds are basically 0. Novice's eyes light up with that familiar hero energy, and with a determined smile, he says giving this man closure is worth it. They accept the quest, warning him not to expect a miracle. The brother collapses to the ground, seemingly overwhelmed with emotion, but a close-up on his eye shows it glowing a strange red. His whole attitude shifts as he quietly wonders what these adventurers are really up to. Meanwhile, the team reaches the entrance of the Chlorof caves. Scarface notices fresh blood on the wall, and no one is sure if that is a good sign or a very bad one. Inside, Sly points out there are no monsters around, which feels off. Novice gives his usual teamwork speech. Working together makes everything easier. They head deeper into what feels more like a giant maze. Scarface groans that exploring the whole place could take days. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind rushes through the tunnel, putting out their torches and leaving them in total darkness. Novice, staying calm, tells everyone to hold on for a second. He uses his light skill, creating his own personal flashlight, but a creepy red eye is watching them from a crack in the wall. He rubs his eyes, thinking he imagined it, and looks again, but now there is nothing there. Must have been his mind playing tricks. Scarface jokes that he looks like he saw a ghost. Oh, he has no idea. Suddenly, Novice's eyes widen in pure horror, because a monster has appeared right behind Sly. He shouts a warning, but it is too late. The creature lunges forward, all teeth and claws. Sly starts to turn, completely unaware of the danger, and a clawed hand bursts through his chest from behind. He looks down in disbelief. This was definitely not part of the plan. Novice stares in shock because the monster somehow looks eerily familiar. His mind flashes back to Park's words about their code being absolute. At the same time, Scarface is badly hurt and begs Novice to kill the creature that attacked them, his final request. Novice is completely shaken, unable to process what just happened to Sly. The monster, some twisted-looking woman, sneers at their pain. This whole scene sends him spiraling into another memory, a different cave, with 2 old teammates, a swordsman and a mage. His familiar screams a warning about an attack from behind. Novice spins around, furious, and activates his speed skill, going all out. He swears he will not lose anyone else today. One teammate is fighting a monstrous copy of himself, and the fake version laughs, enjoying the chaos. In a blur, Novice slices the clone in half, leaving his friend stunned by the timely save. They regroup, barely able to believe they are still alive, but then they realize someone is missing. They cannot find Sly. Novice has to admit that Sly is already gone. His familiar scream snaps him back to the present, and his eyes narrow with focus. A shadowy beast with glowing red eyes looms over them in the dark, unleashing a huge, crisscrossing claw attack. Novice is ready, throwing up a defensive shield just in time. It holds strong, blocking the hit as the red energy fades and the danger seems to pass, for now. His swordsman friend grins, telling the mage that Novice has this handled. Famous last words, probably. Novice calls for their mage, Stefan, to light up the cave. Stefan, shaking nervously, agrees and raises his staff, casting a bright spell. The light reveals they are surrounded by copies of their own swordsmen. Then red gunk drips from the ceiling, making the clones scream in pain. One of them clutches his head, writhing from the strange substance. Novice watches with a cold, calculating look. Definitely not a hero face. He activates his speed skill and cuts off one clone's hands instantly. The clone screams, staring at its bloody stumps. Standing over it, Novice feels no pity, until he suddenly realizes these monsters look completely human. At that exact moment, the real swordsman is swinging his blade, looking just as terrifying. He stabs one of his own clones, yelling at Novice to really look at them. He knows Novice hates killing, but insists there is no way these things could be called human. Novice just stands there, his face a mix of horror and confusion. His friend warns that if Novice cannot finish the job, he will. Then he attacks Novice directly, their swords clashing. He keeps ranting that these are just monsters, but Novice is barely holding his ground, shocked by his friend's speed. His teammate shouts that their strength has become insane. Even Novice's familiar panics, unable to ignore the bloodlust in their eyes. It is completely off the charts. Suddenly, the swordsman's eyes glow red as he activates a new skill, definitely not the look of someone stable. He uses a powerful push attack, sending Novice flying backward. After a small nod, the swordsman rushes off to finish another clone. In the background, a shadowy figure watches, surprised that this so-called paladin is keeping up with their fighters. The new plan becomes clear. Take out their mage, Stefan, first. Stefan is grabbed from the shadows, screaming for his team. This new enemy lifts him by the throat, annoyed by the bright light. Stefan trembles, completely helpless. Novice loses it, screaming his name as a single tear rolls down Stefan's cheek. This really is it. The villain mocks him, calling mages fragile little toys. Back to back, Novice and the swordsman, Grant, prepare to fight together, both furious and ready. Novice activates his level 3 holy barrier, forming a large shield around them, but the villain just smirks, calling it flashy, and smashes right through it with one punch. So much for level 3. Grant looks up in shock as the shield shatters. A huge beam of red energy slams down on him. The villain stands over Grant's body while Novice can barely process how fast it all happened. He is knocked to the ground, stunned, refusing to accept what he is seeing. The villain's boot resting on Grant's chest says it all. It is over for him. Novice screams his friend's name, his aura exploding with blue lightning. The villain watches calmly as Novice charges in, but easily blocks the sword with his bare hand, no effort at all. He even calls Novice a monster. Novice completely loses it, screaming that he will never become like him. Meanwhile, a mysterious man in an eye patch is monologuing about a king who creates warriors. Novice's familiar tells him to go all out. He is ready to risk everything, even if it is his final fight. This all connects back to a promise he made as a child, a dream where no one has to suffer the way he did. The villain seems genuinely interested now, which is never a good sign, and challenges Novice to show what a human is truly capable of. They charge at each other in a blur of red and blue energy. The villain seems thrilled, saying Novice is too talented to waste. Suddenly, shadowy monsters appear behind Novice, and one of them, a woman, slashes his chest. He staggers, coughing blood, barely standing, using his swords to hold himself up. She grins, her eyes glowing red with hunger, and they all attack him together as he screams in pain. The villain reaches out, grabbing Novice by the hair, telling him not to worry, promising he will not die here, which is somehow the scariest thing anyone could say. Then he bites him right on the neck. Novice is stunned, blood splattering from the wound, his last thought simply how badly he failed everyone. Afterward, the villain drops him, disappointed he could not take him along. Chip is losing his mind, screaming for Novice, trying to shake him awake, yelling that they are all going to die. Great morale boost, buddy. The villain keeps bragging about what a weak protector Novice turned out to be, until he notices a sudden gleam. A massive holy attack slams directly into his chest. A blonde swordsman appears, looking like he has been through an entire war. With fierce determination, he says he finally made it. He reveals a serious wound, saying he managed to save Novice just this once. His hand shakes as he calls Novice Protector, right before collapsing completely. The villain pulls the sword from his own chest, shocked the man survived this long. He is confused hearing Novice quietly thank someone named Sly, because Novice is somehow back on his feet, telling him this fight is far from over. Novice looks completely feral, gritting his teeth in pure rage. He screams for the villain to die, unleashing a storm of blue lightning, all that holy power channeling into his sword. He detonates it all in one massive blast that rips through the cavern like a wave of pure fury. Even the villain is shocked, calling the power output impossible. But Novice is not finished, pouring every last bit of strength into one final explosion of holy energy. Once the dust settles, he is completely drained, collapsed on the ground. Chip panics, saying they have used up all their mana. Novice pants, insisting that attack should have been enough to end it. Then he grabs his neck, right where the villain bit him, and his eye starts glitching into a strange red glow. A warning sign appears in his vision, never a good sign. He calls out for Chip as dark energy begins to corrupt him. A red magic circle traps him, confirming something is very wrong. And sure enough, the system announces an infection, so that Bite really was some kind of virus. Suddenly Novice is floating in a strange red void, and Sly is there too. Completely confused about how he got there. In this vision, Sly's old teammates appear, and they blame him for failing them. Sly freezes, unable to answer. The nightmare grows worse as his old team screams at him, covered in blood. He tries to apologize, blaming his own weakness before being dragged down into a literal pool of blood. This whole vision seems determined to drown him in his past failures. He kneels in the mess, completely broken by the memory, losing control as the trauma crashes over him all at once. A ghostly face appears in the swirl, mocking him further for being such a terrible protector, real supportive ghost friend. Sly accepts it quietly, thinking that even with the system, he was still useless. He starts regretting the 3 rules he made for himself, wondering if breaking them could have stopped this tragedy. All he can do is beg for it to be a nightmare, but the blood dripping around him says otherwise. This is all too real. Suddenly, Novice wakes up with a scream, looking a little different. He clutches his head, wondering if it was all a dream, only to notice his hair has turned completely white. A glance at his fallen friends confirms the harsh truth. They really did lose. Novice stumbles to his feet, the memory of the fight slowly returning as he tries to piece together what happened in the wrecked cave. The whole area is now rubble and dust. A quiet question lingers. Is any of this even real? Then the main villain reappears, cheerfully confirming that no, Novice is not losing his mind. Still covered in blood, he calls out for his familiar, Chip, worried about what happened to him. Chip pops up with a brand new look, a small red devil wearing a top hat, feeling strange. Novice is not amused, while Chip panics about suddenly having 10 eyes. Great time for an identity crisis, buddy. He explains that familiars are supposed to be unique and should never randomly change like this, which means if Chip looks different, the whole system might be broken. Cue another giant warning sign. Sure enough, the system confirms it has been infected thanks to that vampire bite earlier. Gritting his teeth, Novice tells Chip to pull up his status screen anyway, and his whole profile is a mess. Race error, level 1. His stats completely reset, though he notices they are still surprisingly strong for level 1. There is also a brand new stat called Sense that he has never even heard of before. Chip points out that a system reset should be impossible without the king's approval, which they clearly never got. Novice sets that thought aside for now, deciding they need to find their friends' bodies first. The search begins across the empty, ruined landscape. After hours of searching, they find nothing, leaving him to wonder if somehow they escaped. Growing desperate, Novice suggests heading back to the village for help. Chip tries to stay positive, but it is clear Novice feels like he failed. Then he asks a very specific question about monster venom that can infect people, specifically whether it could actually change someone's entire race, like into this race error thing. Chip confirms poison is common, but rewriting someone's species completely is new to him. As Novice practices swinging his sword, his mind drifts back to the cave, remembering how human those monsters had looked, sparking a horrifying thought that sends him into a small panic, wondering if he is now some kind of monster himself. Wait, does he have 10 eyes now too? He quickly tries to shake it off, telling Chip to just forget his little meltdown. The search has stretched through the entire night, and now the sun begins to rise. As morning light touches his arm, he feels a strange heat, and by strange, his arm starts smoking like it is literally on fire. He stumbles in pain, and even Chip looks sick. A system alert pops up, informing him he is now fatally allergic to sunlight. Novice stares at it, refusing to believe this is real, but the system insists, confirming his health is actively draining. Realizing he is on a timer, he tells Chip they need to find shade immediately. Spotting a rock formation ahead, he sprints and dives into its shadow, collapsing in relief. A new notification confirms his stats are back to normal, so yes, he is officially a vampire now. Wonderful. He checks his stats again, still refusing to believe this glitchy system is real. And right on cue, a new quest appears, telling him to consume human blood to restore his health. Novice is more than a little concerned about his new dietary needs. He tries convincing himself this must be some kind of mistake, but the system even offers a bonus for trying different blood types. Gotta collect them all, apparently. He tries to rationalize it, thinking maybe it just means he is anemic. Deciding his best move is to get back to the village and fix this somehow, he steps out from behind the rock, immediately triggering another sunlight warning. Still in denial, he insists the system must be broken. Sure, buddy. Then he suddenly stops, sensing something in the woods. A sweet smell hits him, and his first thought is that people must be nearby. Without thinking, he speeds through the trees at an inhuman pace, following the scent until he finds a small house in a clearing. His face drops at what he sees, a dead body lying in a large pool of blood. The smell completely overwhelms his new instincts. He cannot stop himself from reaching down, wondering why it smells so unbearably good. His eyes glow, hunger taking over completely. With the quest reminder taunting him, he thinks maybe just a small taste would not hurt. His hand hovers over the blood, temptation pulling hard. His instincts whisper for him to just try a little, but with a surge of willpower, he clenches his fist and refuses. He turns away, saying the dead deserve to be left in peace. A wave of horror hits him as he realizes what he almost did. He tells Chip they need to leave immediately. As they walk away, a dark red aura rises from the body behind them. Suddenly, a swarm of small bat creatures surrounds him, screaming that he is burning. He is honestly sick of these notifications by now, as his health keeps dropping and his hunger grows stronger. Novice grits his teeth, knowing he is running out of time before this curse finishes him off. The system helpfully reminds him again about the human blood quest, which he still refuses to accept. He brushes off Chip's worry, insisting they just need to reach the nearby village. Chip is suspicious, asking how he could possibly know that. Novice just calls it a hunch, though he sounds far too confident for a simple guess. And right on cue, a village appears ahead. Psychic powers now too, apparently. He suddenly stops, covering his mouth as a strange new feeling hits him. The scent of people is overwhelming. He can smell every single one of them. Completely stunned by this new sense, his focus locks onto the villagers like a walking buffet he cannot ignore. He fights the urge with everything he has, begging himself to stop. Slamming his hand against a tree, then his head, he tries anything to break the pull. With so many people nearby, he knows he cannot risk getting closer to the village. The thought of what he might do to them terrifies him completely. He collapses to the ground, screaming in pure agony as this new hunger tears him apart from the inside. A system alert calmly informs him his bloodlust is rising. Thanks a lot, game. He begs the thoughts to stop, desperately trying to fight it, wondering if this nightmare is really his life now. As he stumbles away, a rustling sound catches his attention, and a massive, angry boar comes charging out of the woods. Chip points out that all his screaming probably attracted it. Real helpful, Chip. Novice is stunned. This is a level 5 beast, and he is stuck at level 1. The boar closes in fast, forcing him to react. With a sudden burst of speed, he dodges out of the way just as the creature thunders past, missing him by inches. Shocked, he realizes he did not even use his speed skill. He just moved that fast naturally. There is no time to think it over. The boar is already turning around. His plan is simple: create distance and aim for the head. He winds up a punch, channeling this strange new power, and completely demolishes the boar's face in one hit. The impact echoes through the whole forest, and the boar drops instantly, already smoking. Chip points out the obvious. The system just rewarded him with experience for the one-hit kill. Novice stares at his own hand, stunned by his strength. Then it clicks. The blood is what is fueling all of this. He wonders if drinking the boar's blood might somehow break the system's hold on him. Meanwhile, Chip and his bat friends seem to be feeling much better now that night has fallen. Novice realizes his new powers might only work at night, worried he could be completely useless during the day. Kneeling down, he knows he has to try something before his health hits 0. Reaching for the blood, willing to try anything to stop these urges, he licks a bit off his fingers. The taste is instantly disgusting, making him gag. He realizes animal blood just does not compare to that human blood from earlier. Instead of helping, his bloodlust spikes even harder, and his health drains faster than before. The hunger tears through him, and all he can do is beg the thoughts to stop glaring at the boar. He looks ready to snap. He grabs one of its huge tusks and with a sickening crack, tears it right off the skull. With a wild laugh, he decides this might be his only way out. He remembers his job was to hunt monsters and protect people, so with twisted logic, he tells himself he now has to protect them from himself. He presses the tusk to his own throat, ready to end it. Just then, a woman walks out of the woods, asking if he is okay. Perfect timing. He turns to face her, looking like something out of a nightmare, and tells her she should not be here. His eyes glow red as he silently begs himself not to lose control. His new senses are overwhelming, letting him hear her heartbeat like a hunter sizing up prey. In a last effort, he slams the tusk into the ground to steady himself. But a vision flashes in his mind, a darker version of himself sitting on a throne. This inner demon looms over him, surrounded by an endless craving for blood. Back in reality, he screams at the voice in his head to stop. He doubles over, trying to convince both himself and her that he will not hurt her. She simply sees a wounded man and tells him to stay back for his own safety. Growing impatient with his stubbornness, she reaches out and grabs him anyway. The moment her hand touches his, the connection feels electric. He can feel her heartbeat pounding inside his own skull. The sensation is so strong he can even sense the blood moving through her veins. Completely unaware of the danger, she winks and pulls out a healing potion, complaining about how expensive it was as she pours it over him. But the potion burns him instead, draining his health even faster. Chip screams that this so-called healing item is actually killing him. So Novice smacks her hand away, not exactly a great first impression. Clutching his head, he suddenly feels a strange sense of calm. The overwhelming voice demanding blood finally quiets down. Even Chip and the other bats ask if he is back to normal. The woman, completely unbothered, offers to take him to her camp for help, and he is immediately horrified at the thought of more people nearby. He realizes the potion, while painful, also seemed to calm his bloodlust. Ever helpful, Chip suggests he just bite her instead, problem solved. His familiar insists it is simply a matter of survival, his own included. The whole bat crew starts crying, begging him not to die on them. Novice notes that Chip has gotten surprisingly practical since this whole curse began, a selfish streak that feels completely new. Meanwhile, the woman leads him along, mentioning strange, human-like monsters near her camp, which instantly grabs his attention. He asks if they looked human, and she is stunned, asking how he could possibly know that. Suddenly, something shoots through the air at incredible speed. A rope trap catches her ankle and yanks her off the ground. She is hoisted into the air as Novice reaches out in shock. Monster or not, he does not hesitate. He is going in. With determination, he moves to act, reminding himself his job is to protect people, even from himself. He lands in a flash, but she is already gone, leaving him wondering where she disappeared to. Time to test his new sense skill, while Chip offers some less than useful advice. He tries to focus, which immediately backfires as his senses spiral into overload. Then a familiar scent hits him, and it is not a good one. Someone knocks him out cold from behind, and his health drops by 1, just adding insult to injury. The bandits wonder why they even bothered knocking him out, since apparently he is somewhat famous. While Chip frantically tries to wake him from inside his own eyeball, Novice finally comes to with a bat sitting on his face, asking what happened, and he is clearly not feeling great. Waking up tied inside a cage is a pretty good clue, since it turns out they are in a full-blown bandit camp. That helpful woman from earlier is now giving orders to the bandit leader, smirking about how easily he fell for her act. What an idiot Chip is losing it, screaming that she tricked them from the start. A voice from the next cell asks if he is another one of her victims. Turns out Novice is not her first target. She took down this man's entire party too. In a flashback, his team had been walking through the woods at night when a few of them started feeling suspiciously tired, and the dread quickly set in. Before long, the whole group was knocked out on the ground. One man woke up just long enough to beg for help, only to see the bandit woman standing over them, ready to strike. She even asked if they had enjoyed her special drinks. What a host. Back in the present, another prisoner is shocked to learn she is connected to the guild, while someone else figures it was just another fake quest. This white-haired prisoner is drowning in guilt for leading his friends into it, and the bandit leader's taunts about his so-called code only make it worse. Meanwhile, Novice coughs up blood, the potion wound flaring badly. Chip bluntly points out he has about 30 minutes left before he dies. The prisoner beside him notices dark energy swirling around Novice and senses something is very wrong. As his bloodlust rises, Novice asks his new cellmate for one last favor. The man can only watch helplessly, still tied up. Novice asks him to kill all the bandits if he ever manages to escape, because in his eyes, they are not people anymore, just monsters. Covered in blood, Novice decides to give his cellmate's death meaning. He bites into the man's neck, a grim promise to use whatever strength he gains for good. The bite floods his mind with the prisoner's memories of betrayal, and he realizes these bandits are the same monsters his cellmate once chose to spare. Standing over the body, Novice grimly accepts the dark path ahead of him. The system instantly rewards him with restored health and a new level. With a chilling look, he vows to kill every last one of them, and of course, a new skill unlocks, Blood Claws. Because why not? The story flashes back to the prisoner's old party, where something about their code already felt wrong. They had unknowingly walked straight into a trap disguised as a ransom job. Elsewhere, other adventurers grow worried about Novice's disappearance, but one of them is taken down almost instantly while scouting ahead. Back at the camp, the bandit woman approaches the cage looking smug, taunting Novice about how well he and his new dead friend are getting along. His silence unsettles her and she snaps, calling him swine, though she visibly gulps, thrown off by his complete lack of fear. Novice simply spits, aiming right past her head, the ultimate insult. He calls it a morning shower, which is honestly legendary sass. Furious, she orders her men to wake up the embarrassment since her whole plan was to ransom him to his wealthy family. One of the goons questions why their big payday is just lying there motionless. She slams the cage shut, shouting that he is their ticket to riches. Grabbing him by the collar, she demands to know what happened to him, panicking that he was not supposed to die yet. Then it hits her. They actually bonded in there, and he just gave her a very special parting gift, straight through the chest. The system dings with experience points as she calls him a monster. Yeah, no argument there. Her scream alerts the entire camp, and no one is happy their prized hostage just became permanently unavailable. Ever the strategist, Chip tells Novice to dump all his new stat points into agility, giving a confident little wink like he knows exactly what he's doing. One bandit swings a massive cleaver at his head, but thanks to his new speed, Novice simply steps aside like it's nothing. He unleashes his brand new Blood Claws skill, tearing straight through the bandit's chest in a flash of red. Another kill, another small burst of experience. He grabs the fallen bandit's sword, casually saying he'll be borrowing it. The bandit leader boasts about his speed, but Novice is already operating on another level, tearing through the camp and taking down 3 more men in one bloody blur. With glowing red eyes, he promises them one simple thing: they are all going to die. He carves a bloody path through the camp, leaving bodies scattered everywhere, and Chip seems almost relieved he finally let off some steam. Great support, buddy. Standing amid the carnage, Novice looks back toward the now empty cage. Suddenly, a slow clap echoes from the trees. Someone is clearly impressed. It is the bandit leader, here to mock Novice's now abandoned no-kill policy. He pulls out a dagger, clearly ready to fight, and reveals they have crossed paths before. He had assumed Novice was already dealt with. He even calls him a monster made by the king, an interesting new detail. Ever the problem solver, Chip suggests he simply bite him too. Novice agrees the man deserves it, but gets a sudden warning as the leader lunges at him with terrifying speed. Novice takes a hit, remembering he had beaten this man before, but his level had since been reset. As their blades clash, he starts seriously doubting whether he can win this fight. He manages to block a downward strike using his Blood Claw hand, briefly trapping the leader's sword. But the bandit is simply too fast, landing a clean slash across his chest, draining more health and leaving him with barely half remaining. He stumbles back, realizing this opponent is far stronger than him right now. The leader kneels beside him, taunting him as just another little system warrior, so he knows what that means too, and grins, asking how it feels to be the weak one for once. Chip chimes in that this guy would have been easy if Novice still had his old skills. The bandit leader swings down again, ranting about stripping away his morals, landing a heavy blow and shouting that they are exactly the same. But Novice simply replies that he is nothing like him, shocking the leader. He catches the blade with his bare hand, activating Blood Claws at the cost of his own health, shattering the sword against his glowing red fist. With a grim expression, Novice thanks him for the reminder, then unleashes a powerful claw attack of his own. The swing misses, carving a massive chunk out of a nearby tree instead. But the force alone is enough to make the leader cough up blood. Stunned, the leader realizes this new skill drains life force, not mana. Clutching his wounded arm, he keeps taunting Novice about their similarities, justifying his crew's violence as simple survival. But Novice insists he is different now, and no longer worthy of calling himself their friend. Meanwhile, the blonde adventurer is rushing through the woods to help. The leader drops a shocking detail. He has been working with the guild, splitting the profits. Novice is stunned. This is the second time he has heard about guild corruption, which only strengthens the leader's twisted point, that everyone is a monster deep down. He smirks, fully confident in his worldview, while Chip worries the fight might be ending just as it gets interesting. Novice thinks back to his old friends, how he always fought the monsters so they wouldn't have to. Now he spirals, wondering if the guild had been using him the whole time. Grabbing the bandit leader, rage burning in his eyes, he has a full-blown crisis, questioning if his entire life has been a lie. Ever pragmatic, Chip suggests a quick snack to restore his health. The idea of drinking more blood clearly does not sit well with him, and he looks like he might be sick just thinking about it. Even Chip can barely keep up with his constant moral back and forth, but Novice admits he has a point. Realizing that in his current state, he is more of a liability than a help, and knowing his old party members may be in danger from a corrupt guild, he understands he is currently too weak to protect them. Drinking this man's blood becomes the only path forward, and he wonders, almost darkly curious, if he'll get another memory download with this meal. He goes for the neck, and the system rewards him with a new skill and stat boost. The taste is unusually sweet, which is not reassuring at all. No memories this time, but his whole body buzzes with new power, feeling almost like leveling up, and he is already a little too used to that feeling. Just then, a rustle in the nearby bushes catches his attention. It's the blonde adventurer, finally arriving, just in time to see the new him. She finds him mid-bite, standing over the bandit leader's body, looking completely unhinged. A tense standoff stretches across the clearing. Novice tries to explain, a tough cell with blood claws still extended. Understandably, she has no interest in sticking around for a conversation. He calls out for her to wait, but she immediately runs. Chip points out the obvious, she thought she was next on the menu. Novice starts questioning whether the system is forcing this on him, or if this is simply who he is becoming. Clutching his guild emblem, he realizes he has broken the code he once lived by and shatters it, declaring himself unworthy to wear it. Ever practical, Chip asks what the plan is now, but Novice admits he cannot fully control himself yet. He needs to master this power first. Chip thinks that's the best plan ever. Time to grind some levels. With his path set, Novice clenches his fist, ready for what comes next. His new goal becomes clear: grow strong enough to expose the corrupt guild pulling the strings behind everything. Chip then offers some very practical fashion advice: loot the corpse for new clothes, and Novice just shrugs, since honestly he's already done far worse today. A few days pass, and they finally reach a nearby town, heading straight for the Duskwatch Guild Hall. Inside, some adventurers are reminiscing about Novice, wondering where he could have gone. The irony is not lost on anyone. One of his old teammates, Park, still holds on to hope that they're alive, though his companion gently reminds him it's been far too long for that. Park grows heated, refusing to accept that anyone could have defeated his friends. Someone off to the side shouts for him to just accept they're gone. He slams his fist on the table, furious at the suggestion, clearly not ready to let go of his denial. Just then, a couple of rival adventurers stroll into the guild hall. One of them, Taxon, immediately starts bragging that they're the new top team. Park calls him out, reminding him that Novice used to clean up his messes constantly. The two get into each other's faces, with Taxon smugly taking full credit, but Park refuses to let this disrespect toward his missing friend slide. Taxon grabs him, insisting he was the one who took down the bandits this time. The rest of the guild seems to actually believe it, assuming Taxon is now the second strongest. He laughs, confident the king will simply pick a new system user eventually, then struts off to collect a reward for a job he clearly didn't do. Park is disgusted, though part of him quietly wonders if there's truth to it. Even the blonde adventurer struggles to process the news until she catches a reflection in her drink and realizes that wasn't him at all. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, Novice continues training. Chip confirms they've been grinding for days, asking if he's gotten used to his new power yet. Novice notes his system behaves strangely. It doesn't read stats like a normal one. Instead, it lets him see everyone's blood type, a feature that is not creepy at all. Apparently, different blood types grant different amounts of experience, making him something of a reluctant connoisseur. But the rarest blood types come with a special bonus, granting resistance to sunlight, a gift from that earlier bandit leader snack. Leveling up also boosts his health, letting him stay in daylight a little longer each time. Their new training ground is a place charmingly named Winkle Hollow, though it looks far less like a hollow and more like a "you're probably going to die here" pit. Aiming for just one more level, he draws his blade and steps into the monster-filled darkness. The system confirms he is level 4, with a new goal of reaching level 5. No pressure at all. Back at the guild, Park asks the blonde adventurer, Claire, what she actually saw that day. Clearly shaken, she describes something horrifying: a creature of darkness surrounded by a swarm of monsters with glowing red eyes and an endless hunger for blood. Her description paints a grim picture, leaving Park completely confused. He simply asks if she means some kind of bat. She shakes her head, clearly not getting through to him, since he's only heard vague rumors about a bat-like monster being killed somewhere, with no idea she's actually describing vampires, and his old friend. Inside the hollow, Novice dodges a dangerous beam attack, already realizing this will require a lot of kills. Spotting a cave full of monsters, he sees it as an all-you-can-defeat buffet. Ever the optimist, Chip points out the convenient surplus of enemies. Novice lets them swarm him, completely unbothered by the odds. Focused and steady, he even pulls off a clever trick shot, throwing his sword straight into one of them before diving into the chaos, slicing through the horde. When his blade isn't enough, he brings out his blood claws, leaping onto a monster's back for better positioning and driving his hand straight through its skull. Brutal, but effective. Another kill. Another disappointing 15 experience points. He notes just how pitifully low monster experience really is compared to what he gained from people. He stands ready for the next wave, his eyes burning with intense focus, cutting through the dungeon until the last monster finally falls. But then he remembers the bandit leader. Killing people gave him far more experience, and it suddenly clicks how his old friend must have grown so powerful by killing his own party members. Back to grinding, Novice fights his way through the monster-filled hollow as an entire swarm descends on him, though he's only just getting started. Suddenly, sunlight breaks through, and his stats immediately drop. He groans, remembering exactly why he chose a cave for this in the first place. With his strength fading fast, he's dangerously exposed out in the open, forcing him to rely on his last real advantage, his blood claw skill. Both hands ignite as the system confirms the ability is active, and he lunges at the nearest monster, claws extended. The moment he grabs it, the sunlight penalty disappears entirely, bringing a smug little smile to his face as his stats return to normal. He claims the kill, ready to drain it completely, earning another measly 15 experience for the effort. Using both claws at once, however, drains his health twice as fast, a risky trade-off. Chip helpfully points out he could simply drink blood to fix that, like a monster. Novice looks down, knowing he's already broken his old code, yet the values of his brotherhood still matter to him. He vows to hold on to them, fangs and all, just in time for another winged beast to dive at him from above. Accepting his new reality, he leaps to meet it head-on, his blade flashing as he goes for the final blow. He lands a solid hit, following up with a brutal strike that finally finishes the job, earning a pathetic 15 experience once more. But it's just enough to trigger a level up, quest complete. Chip celebrates loudly while Novice checks his new status. Suddenly, a new system message appears. His race has officially been unlocked, and the game confirms it. He is a vampire. Everything clicks into place. The sun sensitivity, the bloodlust. He is no longer human. It's a chilling realization. He has become exactly the kind of monster he used to fight. The word lingers heavily in the air, a stark confirmation of his new reality, his eyes reflecting the burden he now carries, quite literally. Then the system offers him a class selection, something Chip finds thrilling, presenting 3 intense-sounding vampire titles. Novice stares at the floating cards, completely lost. Even with Chip on his shoulder, neither of them has heard of these classes before. He picks up the Night Warrior card, trying to understand what it means, studying the glowing blue image as he considers his options. The preview shows a powerful vampire built for strength and speed, gaining bonus stat points with every level, a solid deal on paper. Still, the whole display leaves both him and Chip thoroughly confused. Groaning, Novice realizes he actually has to read the fine print on his new vampire career choices. He taps the Blood Manipulator card next, prompting a small panic from Chip. This preview reveals a class that fights by spending its own health, a bold, risky approach that apparently works well for both close and long-range combat. The next card, Purple and Ominous, appears while Chip keeps begging him to slow down, revealing the Scarlet Spellbinder, a mage type that restores mana using blood in emergencies, a flexible magic class for anyone who wants to be a wizard and chronically low on iron. After reviewing everything, Novice feels completely overwhelmed by the choices, eventually deciding the Night Warrior fits him best, since he was originally a paladin focused on defense and swordplay. Using a blade is what he knows, making the more magic-focused classes feel like a poor match. Chip, however, isn't buying it and starts shaking him urgently, shoving the Blood Manipulator card right in his face, insisting it's the right choice. Novice immediately rejects the idea. A class that constantly drains his health is the last thing he needs. But Chip turns serious, insisting that as the system, he knows this is the correct decision, even pulling out the classic "Have I Ever Let You Down" card. A low blow, honestly. Novice pauses, weighing his options, and remembers their very first meeting, back when Chip looked completely different, and honestly much cuter. Back then, the little creature had screamed at him to use a barrier mid-battle, a warning that ended up saving his life from a monster that would have crushed him otherwise. He recalls that near-death moment clearly, Chip being the only reason he survived. In the present, he finally admits the little guy has never steered him wrong. So he commits. Blood Manipulator it is. Power immediately surges through him, violent and overwhelming, crackling red energy running up his arm. The transformation feels about as pleasant as a root canal without any numbing. Pain racks his body as the new class rewrites him from the inside out, but he pushes through it, finally standing steady once the power settles. When the dust clears, his eyes now glow a sharp green, the transformation complete. A system window confirms his new class and updated level 5 stats, making it official, leaving him wondering if this level of pain is just part of the standard vampire experience. He has also unlocked Blood Slash, a skill that costs health to use. Of course it does. Suddenly, a wave of new notifications floods his vision, one revealing a major boost to his sun resistance. No more health drain, just from standing in daylight. His stats will still weaken, but at least he won't be actively falling apart anymore. The updates keep coming as he opens the next message, detailing new bonuses tied to his blood-tasting habit. Among them, the best perk yet, a permanent reduction to his bloodlust. But just as he starts to feel good about his choice, another notification drops his jaw. The system hits him with 3 new quests, including a mandatory feeding requirement every 24 hours or else. The system spells it out clearly. He is now on a strict blood drinking schedule, and Novice is already dreading what he might become if he misses one, gritting his teeth while Chip simply watches. Then the little devil grins wide and asks if he's feeling hungry yet, fully embracing his new role as the least helpful sidekick imaginable. As Chip cackles, Novice realizes he only has himself to blame for trusting him. The sweet, innocent guide he once knew is long gone. With all the nearby bandit camps already wiped out, his options are limited, though at least he can walk under the sun now without melting. Small victories. He decides it's time to head back into town for answers, finally stepping out of the forest with civilization coming into view. Elsewhere, another long-haired vampire finishes off a snack of his own, smirking about tying up loose ends, which apparently just means leaving a dead farmer behind in a field. Back at the guild hall, tension fills the room as a crowd listens to a man demanding new leadership. A shirtless guy with a hero complex quickly nominates himself for the job. Someone from the crowd asks what happened to the old leader, Bob, and the wannabe leader scoffs, saying Bob couldn't even show up. Meanwhile, poor Bob is lost somewhere in the woods, completely unaware his job is being stolen. The shirtless man, Taxon, makes his pitch based purely on strength, and the crowd seems split. Monsters are a real threat, and yes, he did technically deal with those bandits. But a man in white armor clenches his fist, clearly not convinced. He steps forward and says leadership means more than raw strength, launching into a speech about community and protecting the weak, the usual noble stuff. To make his point, he gestures at the quest board, which is packed with high-level quests no one has touched since Novice disappeared. This man, Park, insists the town won't feel safe with a glory hound in charge, then calls out Taxon for never taking the dangerous jobs himself. Taxon smirks, saying his crew only takes high-paying quests because, in his view, strength deserves rewards, not charity. A few guild members start nodding along, actually considering him. Park grits his teeth, knowing that would be a disaster, so he challenges Taxon outright. If strength is all that matters, let's settle it with a fight. His partner tries to stop him, but Park is confident beating Taxon will finally shut him up. Taxon accepts with a smug grin, warning there will be consequences for losing. Word spreads fast through town about the upcoming duel, and the locals seem far more excited about free entertainment than guild politics. A big crowd gathers in the square to watch the two potential leaders face off. Park stands ready, sword drawn, prepared to fight for what he believes in. Taxon and his crew step up, ready to finish this before sunset. With a battle cry, Park strikes first, landing a strong hit, but Taxon easily blocks it, sparks flying everywhere. The fight becomes a blur of clashing steel and stubborn determination, while Taxon mocks him, calling him a brainless meathead. Park grits his teeth, clearly annoyed by the commentary, but his next swing is dodged just as easily. Suddenly, Taxon pulls out a second sword, declaring playtime is over, and the two face off in a classic battle of strength versus, well, slightly less strength. Taxon unleashes a fast, overwhelming combo, and Park takes a nasty slash across the chest. In an instant, a blade is at his throat. The fight is over. Taxon boasts that his strength, proven by defeating monsters, makes him the rightful leader, then turns his back on Park, calling him worthless, real classy move. Park lies there, beaten and humiliated, but with the last of his strength, he says someone else could have beaten him easily, which instantly grabs Taxon's attention. Who is he talking about? Park praises the guild's true strongest member, the one who took on every hard quest, and says Taxon will never come close to him. Taxon's face darkens with anger. Still on the ground, Park defiantly repeats that Taxon will never be like the guild's real hero. For that, Taxon smacks him with the hilt of his sword, hardly a fair move, and gloats that his so-called protector isn't around to save him this time. He starts stomping on him, and the crowd watches in horror, too afraid to step in against the new leader. Park's partner can't stand it anymore and tries to rush in, but her friend holds her back, warning she'll only get hurt too. With tears in her eyes, she knows he's right, but it still tears her apart. Just as she decides she has to do something, a cloaked figure steps into the square. Her eyes widen, she can't believe who she's seeing. The stranger walks calmly toward the beating, completely unfazed, and with a single word, "Stop!" He instantly grabs Taxon's full attention. Taxon turns, furious that someone dared interrupt his little lesson. What a charmer. The stranger pulls back his hood, replying that Taxon is the one who needs a lesson, revealing himself to be Novice, back with a whole new look. The two face off as the entire town watches. The crowd erupts. Novice is actually alive. Even Park, barely conscious, manages a small smile. His hero has returned. Claire stares in complete shock at his sudden reappearance. Taxon scoffs, mocking the guy who vanished for weeks and is now trying to lecture him. Novice calls him out for being the kind of person who attacks his own guild members. Taxon claims it was a fair fight, a laughably obvious lie, then asks pointedly where the rest of Novice's party went. That question clearly hits a nerve. How does this guy even know about them? With that, Taxon decides talking is over, drawing his sword and launching into a huge overhead slash. Novice dodges, realizing this guy is far more aggressive than expected. Their swords lock, and Novice can already feel he's slower than Taxon, getting pushed back as sparks fly. Taxon yells at him to actually fight, which is rich coming from him. Meanwhile, Novice knows he can't use his real powers with so many people watching, so he's stuck parrying a relentless string of attacks. His friends in the crowd are confused why he isn't using any skills, and Taxon takes this as weakness, mocking him for coming back this pathetic. Then he unleashes a massive whirlwind attack that completely engulfs Novice in purple energy. He takes the hit hard, losing health, and admits to himself he can't win like this. Just like that, he's on the ground, and Taxon declares victory. The crowd is stunned, their hero just lost. Taxon struts off, telling everyone to clear the way for their new leader, already bragging about his new guild hall. But Park ignores the new boss completely, rushing to help Novice up, pointing out he looks like absolute garbage. Furious, Park demands to know why he'd fight in this condition, and Novice calmly admits he knew from the start he couldn't win. Chip flies in as Novice realizes the fight was way too soon, explaining he just couldn't stand watching Park get beaten any longer. Chip chimes in helpfully that Park is bleeding and smells delicious, and yes, Novice's vampire senses are going haywire right now. They head to a tavern where Park explains the whole guild takeover. Then he finally asks if the rumors about Novice's old party are true. His partner adds that she had assumed he came back for revenge, but Novice explains that by fighting a fellow guild member, he broke his own code. He's technically no longer part of the order. Park doesn't care about any of that. He's just relieved Novice is alive. Novice can't believe he told them his system is broken, when honestly he feels stronger than ever. Right on cue, a sharp notification pings in his head. Elsewhere, other adventurers complain about the new curfew, all because of a mass murderer roaming the streets. Apparently Taxon's crew already fought this killer once and are now too scared to try again. After hearing all that, Novice stands up, saying he needs to rest. As he leaves, Claire watches him go with a deeply worried expression. Back at the guild, Novice studies the quest board, clearly searching for something specific. A wanted poster for the killer catches his eye just as his internal countdown flashes. Only 8 hours left before he needs to feed. He decides that if he has to drink blood, it might as well come from someone who truly deserves it, a bit of a vigilante diet. Chip, always helpful, asks how exactly he plans to track down a murderer. Novice confidently says it'll be easier than expected. Later that night, screams echo from the street below. How convenient. Looking down, they spot a man in armor stumbling around in the dark, dramatically panicking about being out past curfew, really overselling it. He spots Novice on the balcony and waves frantically, spinning a story about a forgotten wallet and being chased by the infamous killer. A cloaked figure conveniently appears behind him, and the man doesn't even flinch, extremely suspicious. Novice plays along, and the armored man insists this is the only route back to the inn, smiling in a way that feels a little too calm. He asks Novice to scout the path ahead, and Novice agrees, walking straight into the obvious trap. In a flash, the man drops the act and lunges with a glowing sword, but he's caught off guard when Novice is already prepared to counter. The killer can't believe it, wondering what gave him away when his performance was, in his opinion, flawless. Novice simply says the guy reeks of blood. With his cover blown, the killer shifts into a real fighting stance, licking his blade while mocking Novice for the beating he took from Taxon earlier. He declares Novice will make the perfect test subject for his new skills, especially now that sunlight can't save him. Novice grins, finally ready to fight without an audience. In the empty street, the two face off. The killer scoffs, unimpressed by Novice's new appearance, lunging forward while boasting that not even Taxon could stop him. Their blades clash violently, sparks flying, and the killer quickly realizes Novice is faster than before, leaping back to create distance. Novice, now wielding two blades, knows he needs to keep some separation, so he takes the fight to the rooftops. He leaps across the city square with incredible speed, weaving through the night air. His opponent mocks him for running, then chases after him, warning that seeing his face is basically a death sentence. Very original. With a smirk, Novice decides it's time to test his new vampire skills, unleashing Blood Slash, a huge wave of red energy that catches the killer completely off guard. He barely blocks it in time, sent flying across the rooftop. Novice checks his stats, admitting these skills would be great if they didn't drain so much health. The killer smiles smugly, realizing Novice hasn't lost his abilities after all, and leaps in for another attack. In response, Novice fires off another Blood Slash, which the killer dodges, leaving deep gashes in the roof tiles. Suddenly, the killer is right in his face, lecturing him that Blood Slash is better suited for mid-range fights. To prove his point, he brings his sword down hard, forcing Novice to block. With their blades locked, Novice tries something new, activating Blood Claw for a close-range strike. The killer laughs, unimpressed by his glowing red hand, and dodges it with ease, even sneaking in a mocking kick just to show off. Novice admits the guy is simply too fast. He needs a way to slow him down. From across the roof, the killer taunts him, asking if that's really all he's got. Novice admits he isn't fully used to this power yet, but he has to try anyway. So he activates a new skill, blood control. For the first time, the killer actually looks surprised. Blood ribbons whip through the air, instantly wrapping around him, binding him completely. Just like that, the murderer is fully restrained and helpless. With a grin, Novice starts reeling him in for a little conversation. The ribbons tighten further, leaving him completely trapped. Novice admits this skill drains a lot of energy, but hey, it works. With a flick of his wrist, he yanks the man through the air like a fish on a line, saying with a chillingly calm smile that playtime is over. Then he goes in for the bite. Dinner is served. The system dings with a level up. Congratulations on the murder, apparently. He also gains 5 stat points, a massive jump compared to his human days. Chip points out he's unlocked a new skill, Blood Cannon, though it costs half his health, a skill he'll probably never use. He decides to save the stat points for later, but Chip reminds him of the important part. Quest complete, health fully restored, and his 24-hour feeding timer has reset. After wiping his mouth, another notification appears. His blood aura has grown stronger. He's safe for another day, but now he has a very inconvenient body to deal with. Chip practically suggests looting the corpse, but Novice shuts that down immediately. As he dashes off, he knows this vigilante diet isn't a real long-term solution. His new plan is simple. Find out exactly what Taxon knows about his condition. He moves across the rooftops like a shadow, slipping back into his room as if he'd never left. From her window, Claire wonders why he's coming back so late, growing suspicious that he might be hiding something. The next morning, she walks through town geared up for a quest, clearly distracted by something heavy on her mind. Park spots her under a tree and calls out, catching up with groceries in hand, mentioning another mandatory guild meeting. It turns out the meeting is because the killer struck again, leaving a body on a rooftop. That detail stops Claire cold, her shocked expression saying everything. She knows exactly who was on a roof last night. Meanwhile, Novice is out fighting, a system alert confirming the sunlight is draining his stats as he faces off against a wolf with an unsettling grin. The beast lunges, forcing him onto the defensive, struggling just to keep its jaws away from his sword. From a distance, Park's group notices he's in trouble and rushes to help. One of them charges in, confidently declaring he's got it handled, and finishes the wolf with a single clean strike. He mutters that Claire was right, it's too soon for Novice to be adventuring. Park rushes to help him up, apologizing for dragging him into this, but Novice brushes it off with a smile, insisting he can keep going, which only frustrates Park more, later slamming his hand on a table. Park gets a suspiciously excited look, suggesting they take on a quest together. Claire, ever the voice of reason, points out Novice clearly isn't okay, but Park grabs him anyway, insisting it's for his own good. Novice knows the sunlight will weaken him, but agrees, wanting to test his limits. Park takes that as a yes, immediately announcing they need 5 people, then recruits 2 random strangers on the spot, pointing and saying, "You're hired." The 2 chosen men turn around, completely confused by their sudden promotion. A flash of red hits Novice, triggering old memories tied to the word protector, leaving the rest of the group baffled by his reaction. Through clenched teeth, he growls, "Don't call me that," and just like that, the newly formed 5-person squad heads out to fight a wolf pack. Park, meanwhile, is having the time of his life, cutting through wolves with ease and even throwing in a smug thumbs up. Novice manages a weak nod, clearly drained from the fight. From the sidelines, Claire watches with obvious concern. As the sun sets, the group walks off, celebrating their successful hunt. But their celebration is cut short by a desperate scream as a woman comes running through the trees, clearly terrified. One of the new recruits catches her, asking what's wrong, and she gasps that a giant bird is destroying her village, a classic side quest setup. She explains her village is under attack and losing badly. One of the men asks her to describe the creature, and she says it has the body of a beast, wings, sharp talons, and breathes fire. The knight asks if this sounds familiar, and identifies it as a griffin, much to everyone's horror. That's a grade B monster, which explains why the villagers are struggling. Without hesitation, the knight steps up, insisting they have to help. Otherwise, the whole village is doomed. He then tells Novice to run back for reinforcements, the classic stay-behind move. Novice knows the sun is setting, meaning his powers are about to return, but he obviously can't explain that, so he simply promises to be quick. The knight grins, confident Novice can't mess up something this simple. With that, The rest of the party rushes off to be heroes, while Novice sprints away, knowing full well they likely can't handle a griffin alone. He races through the forest at full speed, aware they're running out of time, and moments later, he's already standing outside the guild hall. He bursts through the doors, shouting Taxon's name. The whole hall full of tough-looking adventurers freezes, staring at him. One scarred fighter demands to know what he wants. Novice frantically explains the situation. A griffin is attacking Yanville, but Taxon slams his hand on the table, telling him to stop. His logic purely about profit, Yanville belongs to a rival guild, so there's no reason to help. Furious, Novice reminds him their own people are in danger, but Taxon simply writes it off as an acceptable loss, then smugly dares him, if he cares so much, go save them himself. That triggers his old protector instincts instantly. Chip points out the obvious, their friends could die. Through gritted teeth, Novice admits he already knows that all too well. His eyes glow as he delivers a cold threat. If they die, Taxon is next. With that, he storms out, deciding to pour all his stat points into agility. A surge of red energy erupts as his speed spikes dramatically. Meanwhile, back at the battle, the griffin is a raging storm of fire and fury. The rest of the party looks completely outmatched against it. The village is being torn apart, and they're beginning to realize this fight might have been a mistake. The griffin launches a swirling fireball, and the knight bravely steps in to block it with his shield. The impact sends him flying, and he yells that he can't even land a hit. Under the intense heat, his shield starts falling apart. Claire confirms their arrows are useless too, burning up before they even make contact. Novice tears through the forest, racing back, telling Chip the group is completely out of their depth. They can't even scratch the thing. Back at the chaos, the team scrambles for any kind of ranged option, while the griffin hovers above like an actual apocalypse. This entire situation triggers his old trauma again, and he vows not to fail this time. With a roar, he begins channeling a terrifying amount of dark energy, his expression turning nightmarish as a swirling vortex of blood forms around him. He knows this is a massive risk, but it's their only shot. It's finally time to use that skill he swore he'd never touch. He unleashes Blood Cannon, and just like that, half his health is gone, exactly as warned. Meanwhile, Park's brilliant strategy is simply to charge the monster and hope for the best. Suddenly, a massive crimson beam of energy tears through the sky, slamming directly into the griffin with explosive force. The rest of the party stands frozen, completely stunned by the surprise kill. Claire's expression says it all. What on earth was that? A massive explosion shakes the battlefield, kicking up dust and debris. When it clears, the griffin is finished, and the villagers cheer as if they'd done it themselves. The party, however, knows that attack didn't come from any of them. The knight scans the tree line, but finds no trace of their mysterious rescuer. Miles away, Novice walks off quietly, finally understanding why that skill is strictly for emergencies. He's still furious, realizing just how close his friends came to dying, and swears Taxon won't get away with this. At least he leveled up a bit from the near-death experience. Meanwhile, at a different guild hall, a large assembly gathers as an old knight in heavy armor calls for everyone's attention. Standing behind him is Taxon, as the knight prepares a major announcement. Unsurprisingly, they're naming Taxon the new sub-guild leader. The crowd is far from thrilled, immediately whispering about the terrible decision. One man with glasses flatly says Taxon isn't leadership material at all. Ignoring the doubters, Taxon announces his first mission, targeting a goblin camp, adding that it's a direct order from the king himself, making attendance mandatory. He wears a smug grin, talking about crushing threats before they grow. The man with glasses isn't buying any of it, seeing him as nothing more than a royal puppet. The plan is simple, split into smaller groups to cover more ground, and the old knight confirms Taxon will be assigning the squads. He starts barking out orders, and the crowd has no choice but to comply. A few adventurers immediately notice he's breaking apart established teams, a clearly terrible idea. Then he reads the list, placing Park and Claire together in Squad B before flashing an infuriatingly smug grin and assigning Novice to his own personal squad. The announcement lands like a bomb, shocking everyone in the room. The old knight grabs Claire, warning her not to cause a scene. Novice is furious, wondering why Taxon specifically chose him, but then realizes this might be his chance to corner Taxon for answers. Taxon flashes that same smug smile, saying he's looking forward to working together. From the side, Claire silently hopes her bad feeling is completely wrong. With a hammer slam, the old knight orders everyone to move out by midday. The whole guild scrambles to prepare for the mission. Outside, the first squad heads toward the western path. Novice stands with his new team of strangers, looking thrilled about none of this. Taxon briefs another squad leader, confirming everyone knows their assignment. As Novice glances back one last time at Park and Claire, stuck in a different group, they tell him to be careful, promising to keep an eye on their end and watch Taxon closely. Novice steels himself, ready to finally find out what Taxon really knows. His new squad heads deep into the woods, following orders. Taxon suddenly signals for silence, whispering that they're close to the goblin camp. Crouching low, Novice spots fresh tracks as Chip reminds him the sun is still up. Sure enough, goblins are lurking nearby in the brush. One of the squad members spots them first, shouting out their position, and in an instant, someone charges straight into the trees. The whole squad rushes into the fight, clashing with the goblin ambush. Novice cleanly slices through one of the creatures, while another teammate goes airborne for a flashy attack. One goblin tries to flee, and the squad leader orders a chase. As they run, Novice feels his strength slipping, the sunlight still weighing him down. The chase leads them deeper into the woods, right beneath a hidden goblin shaman. The leader shouts for Novice to flank from the right, a classic pincer move. He follows the order, cutting down another goblin along the way. At that exact moment, the leader gives a silent signal to another teammate, and a mace comes swinging down from the trees, followed by a masked man wielding a scythe, aiming straight for Novice. He looks up just in time to realize he's been betrayed, taking a brutal hit to the side of the head. He's slammed into a tree, losing consciousness almost instantly, a total setup from the start. In his fading vision, he sees his teammates surrounding him, none of them friendly anymore, as the squad leader's eyes flash a demonic red, grinning like he's finally caught his prey. Later, the traitors relax by a campfire, their real mission complete. Novice wakes up bound with a special rope made from monster fibers, tied tightly to a tree, completely at their mercy. The squad leader looms over him, casually noting he's awake, then laughs, explaining the sealing rope is draining all his strength, no escape possible. Furious, Novice immediately realizes Taxon is behind this whole ambush. The leader confirms it, adding that the order actually came straight from the king. This revelation shatters him. The king was the one who gave him his powers in the first place. His mind flashes back to that moment, kneeling before the throne. Snapping back to the present, he screams that it has to be a lie, but the traitor just smirks. Quoting the king's cold reasoning, useless tools get discarded. Then he leans in close, ready to reveal the real reason behind all of this. Killing a system user steals their power. His eyes gleam with ambition as he explains, Novice's death will make him unstoppable. So there he sits, completely powerless, tied to a tree, while the squad of traitors stands around mocking him. The leader flashes an infuriating grin, promising he won't kill him just yet, prompting Novice to call Taxon exactly what he is, a coward. The man scoffs, asking if it's cowardice or simply strategy, explaining he still needs to go play hero in front of the other adventurers. His plan is to make it look like Novice deserted the mission, and soon enough, his so-called friends will just happen to find his body. Perfect, isn't it? With that, Novice finally puts the pieces together, accusing him of setting up the ambush in the cave too. The traitor leader just smirks, playing dumb about the whole thing. Then he mockingly thanks Novice for taking out the bandits he used to work with, which makes Novice realize they were the ones who had freed him from that cage in the first place. The man gives him the slimiest who knows grin possible, and the sheer weight of the betrayal leaves Novice shaking with rage. His mind flashes back to the bandit leader mentioning guild connections, and how confusing that felt at the time. Now it all makes sense. The bandit was talking about Taxon. The traitor leader complains that those bandits had started threatening to expose him, so he sarcastically thanks Novice for cleaning up his mess. With that story done, he points to two of his men, and the three of them head off to go play the hero for the rest of the guild. He tells the remaining thugs to keep an eye on Novice, adding that he needs to stay alive, at least for now. One of the guards leans over him, sneering that escape is pointless, clearly enjoying the power trip a little too much. Novice seethes quietly, promising himself that Taxon will pay for all of this. As the sun finally sets over the forest, a system window appears. Good news, the sunlight penalty is gone. Chip immediately urges him to break free now. He struggles against the rope, but the enchanted binding only tightens, digging painfully into his skin. Chip confirms the obvious. This rope completely blocks his powers, no skills allowed. Even his system feels glitchy, leaving him feeling completely stranded. Then his eyes widen with a new kind of dread. A dark, ominous system window appears with a brand new quest, Drink Blood. Fantastic timing. His curse is kicking in at the worst possible moment, and panic starts to set in as he wonders what happens if he can't feed in time. He tries warning his guard, basically saying, "You really need to let me go." But the guard just tells him to shut up, completely unbothered. Too late for warnings, Novice starts groaning as his body twists in pain, his eyes glowing a deep, menacing red as the transformation begins. He fights it with everything he has, terrified of losing himself again, while the system timer keeps counting down, less than 3 hours left. His vision starts narrowing. locking onto the only living thing nearby. And suddenly his oblivious guard starts looking less like a person and more like dinner. Through clenched teeth, he gives the man one final warning: let him go or die. The guard, not the brightest, assumes he's just putting on a show. Meanwhile, Novice feels like he's living through something worse than death itself. As the countdown hits its final seconds, he completely loses control. The timer reaches 0, and a big red quest failed notification appears. Apparently someone skipped their daily blood ration. Novice begs the guard, desperately trying to explain he has no idea what's about to happen. The guard, done with the theatrics, raises his mace to silence him. With a loud crack, the mace slams into the tree beside him as a dark aura begins swirling violently around Novice. His eyes bleed red, fangs emerge. Subtlety is clearly not part of this transformation. Now the guard starts to realize something is very wrong. Novice's expression twists into a full vampiric snarl, fangs bared and ready. His guard finally looks properly terrified, stepping back from the creature in front of him, likely regretting every choice that led him here. And just like that, the system confirms it. The transformation has fully begun.